how Build My Team came into existence, because it took almost 15 years for you to do that. But let's talk a little bit about the hiring aspect of being a clinic owner.
Yeah, I think I would refer to after the fire, in a lot of ways, those were the dark years, the very difficult
Mm.
years, hiring wise. We're in a small area, very rural. We don't have a talent pool. We have a talent puddle. And it was a couple inches deep max at that point in time. We were trying to hire experienced people. We were trying to hire, I say trying, I mean, we did hire that way as best as we could. A lot of people, we don't have experience in a rural area. I remember saying to somebody that it was more likely for an optician, I'm sorry, to get hire an eye doctor than it was to find an optician in our area, the eye doctor versus a person that does the glasses. And, what we realized over time is, especially with that position, is we have to train them. It's totally trainable. They're the position is trainable as long as you are training a trainable person. And it turns out we weren't over and over and over again. Part of this is a trainer, part of it was the trainee, but we just had the wrong people. Jennifer, that's the crux of this whole problem. We brought on the wrong people
So,
repetitively.
but they don't seem like the wrong people, because
Nope.
you were following what everyone does, right? You were
Yeah.
putting ads out and getting people in and
Yeah.
checking boxes that they, you worked
Hmm.
for this doctor before, and what was that like, right? And
Yeah.
go ahead.
Well, I think there are a couple things that were really problematic about the approach. We tend to believe people as docs when they tell us something. You don't think that somebody's just going to make stuff up or, embellish. I mean, when patients do that clinically, a lot of times you can tell, but flat out cook stuff up is not something you're accustomed to being a doctor, right? Um,
I
and
have a good
in,
story on this. We just had a
oh, yeah.
client who hired, and they need an admin assistant. And this person was like, I've done EHRs, I've worked in lots of different spreadsheets,
Oh boy.
and blah blah
Oh
blah blah blah.
boy.
Right? And they were like, okay, great. They had a resume of experience. They were an older, I would say, they had like 15 years experience. They weren't right out of the, like the turnip truck. That shows you how old I am. But yeah, who didn't
Yeah.
just fall off a turnip truck. They'd been around and they had been at other places. They did references, and they were like, yeah, but they were like, so is there anything you can tell me? Very generic sort of questions.
Yeah.
And then they started training, and it took them two people just to teach this person how to access spreadsheets, and they didn't even know how to scroll up and down inside of Excel. And
Ugh, I get.
the client called me and said,
Oh
am
my
I
God.
being ridiculous? And I was like, no, that person catfished you completely of to
Yeah.
who they were. You don't wait. Well, maybe I should give them more time. Maybe I need to be more. And I was like, no, no, you were lied to. That's not someone that you can invest time in. You have to let them go. And
Right.
funnily enough, the call was like, hey, we really needed you to be able to do, and they were like, okay. They knew they were lying.
Yep.
There's no fight with that, right?
Hmm.
But I thought it's nuts. But I've seen it over and over again. You don't think people will lie about skills, but they will.
Yeah, and I think a lot of like, let's face it, doctors and practice managers tend to be extremely ethical people, and we extrapolate our worldview onto the rest of the world, especially job candidates. Don't do that. I mean, flat out, don't do that. I'll tell you just a super quick thing.
No,
One
we
of
don't
my
have to be
questions
quick. We
is
got
is
time.
is like in a discussion with a candidate when I was doing it at the time. This is midway before Build My Team and the approach we take now. It was simply to ask them if they knew how to type. Yes, great. Guess what, Jennifer? You walk them to a computer and you have them type something on the computer. This is not typing. How
Right.
many words a minute do you type? Oh, 70, 80, like this. Hunt peck. Come on. You're lying. You're just flat out lying. Why would you start a relationship with anything but the truth? And so simply asking them to type, as ridiculous as that was, removed, I don't know, around a third, 40% of the candidates,
That's
just
not
like that.
ridiculous.